From Spotify managing its music metadata and Uber managing its geospatial queries to NASA managing its aeronautics research data, companies rely heavily on the capabilities of PostgreSQL for their critical operations. So if you are here to master PostgreSQL, you made the right choice, as this will open the door to endless possibilities of stepping stone into the world of data. PostgreSQL is trending due to its robust feature set, including support for complex queries, scalability, and strong consistency, all which being open source. From mastering the fundamentals of SQL to hands-on application in PostgreSQL, this video will guide you through every aspect, diving deep into the features and helping you master complex queries in less than an hour. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome to this course, Introduction to PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL is also called as Postgres. So going ahead, I'll be just referring it as Postgres. So we'll be talking about Postgres in this course, which is a relational object management database. So it's a relational as well as object-oriented database. Let's go ahead and talk about the topics which I'm going to discuss in detail in this session. So in this session, I'll be talking about first, what is a database? What are the different types of database that exist? So after understanding the basics of database, we'll go ahead and talk about what is PostgreSQL or what is Postgres. In Introduction to Postgres, I'll also tell you about the different features of PostgreSQL, as well as the little bit we'll talk about the history of PostgreSQL. Going ahead, we'll install the software on the laptop. This is a Windows laptop, so I'll guide you the installation steps for Windows operating system. The process is somewhat same for the other operating systems as well, like Linux or Mac. Then finally, we'll have a hands-on session of PostgreSQL. So there are two aspects of it. One is using command prompt or SQL Shell, and the other one is using PgAdmin. So PgAdmin is a GUI interface using which you can create tables, you can create columns, you can create different keys, or you can run queries, or perform different tasks related to a database. So both the things, SQL Shell and PgAdmin, both we will discuss. So this is all we will discuss about in this session. Let's get started. Now let's talk about databases. So what is a database? Database is basically a collection of data, but that collection of data is stored somewhere in a structured way. When I say somewhere, it might be on a local machine, it might be on a data center, it might be on cloud, it might be on a server, but it is stored somewhere in a structured way. So it's a collection of data. Now that data can be, cleaned, pre-processed, or you can store the data directly in a semi-structured or unstructured way as well. There are many databases using which you can store the data in a semi-structured or unstructured way as well. But majorly, database is a structured collection of data. It is stored and organized for some special purpose. And that purpose can be maybe the retrieval of data, maybe the management of data, or updating the data later on, or maybe to extract some information but by analyzing the data. So all these processes can be done only if a data is stored somewhere in a proper manner or in a structured manner. So that's all about database. Now there are different types of databases. Let's talk about them. So let's talk about relational database. So in relational database, the data is stored in the form of tables, right? There will be rows and columns. So in a tabular manner, the data is stored. There are other concepts like keys using which you will be able to access those data. So basically the structure of the data which is stored in relational database is tables. For example, MySQL, Oracle. So these are the examples for relational database. Now what is NoSQL database? So NoSQL database is generally used for storing semi-structured and unstructured data. For example, MongoDB. The widely used database nowadays is MongoDB, which stores unstructured or semi-structured data as well. Then is your document database. The database which stores data in the form of documents. Documents can be a JSON document, a XML document. So in this document format, if the data is stored, that is your document database. Then there is graph database. Graph database is generally used for representing relationship between the different objects, different classes. So that's your graph database. So basically it is used for representing complex relationship between objects. Then is your columnar database. Columnar database is used for storing the data in columns. So the accessing, storing and everything is in the form of columns. Then is your object-oriented database. So in object-oriented database, every data, or you can say some collection of data, is referred as objects. And in object-oriented database, there are relationships between those objects which are demonstrated. So in all these databases which I have talked about, for example, in relational database, there is not just one table in which all the data is stored. There are multiple tables and data is stored in a structured manner in those tables. Similarly, in document database, there might be multiple documents, right? In NoSQL database also, there can be the data stored in a different structure, in a different way, in multiple, chunks or multiple collections, the data can be stored. So this is all about your different types of databases. Now let's talk about what is PostgreSQL. As I said, PostgreSQL is also called as Postgres. This is an object relational database management system. Object relational meaning it's a relational database management system as well as object-oriented database management system. Meaning it provides you the features of both. Depending upon the application which you are working on, you can select or choose you want to go ahead with the relational database features or object-oriented database features. It's an open source software, meaning it is freely available. You just have to go to the official website of PostgreSQL, download, install it and get started with PostgreSQL. There is no licensing or anything required here. There is no trial period or anything. There is no billing or subscription fees. It's completely open source which you can make use of. It uses SQL query language. So the name itself describes this, that is SQL here. This SQL word is added in Postgres because of this feature only, that it supports SQL, structured query language. So if you are aware of the commands or the SQL query language, you will be easily able to work with PostgreSQL. Now, you must be wondering that if we have already so many softwares for, so many database management systems for SQL support, then why is this PostgreSQL? So there are certain features of PostgreSQL which outstands it from the rest of the database management systems. Those features I'll talk in some time, but let me tell you which are the domains or application areas for Postgres. So finance and healthcare applications. So wherever there is a requirement for a secure, a reliable database management system, those areas Postgres is widely used. So definitely healthcare applications and the financial organizations, softwares which are developed, applications which are developed, require it to be highly secure and reliable as well. So that's the reason Postgres is widely used in these domains. Now, some advanced features of it supports data types from primitive to structured to document, meaning primitive data types, that is integer, real, varchar. So these are the primitive data types. These are supported by Postgres. Apart from this, it also supports document-related data types. For example, you can have XML, JSON, documents as a data type, okay? Then there are geometry-based data types also, which is supported by PostgreSQL. So these are the features which makes PostgreSQL widely acceptable. Then data integrity. There are various integrity constraints that are supported by Postgres. For example, unique, not null, keys. So these are the integrity constraints which are supported by other relational database management systems as well. Explicit logs. So this is one feature which offers or which makes Postgres different or which makes Postgres widely acceptable, that is explicit log features. So this was all about your PostgreSQL. Now we'll talk about little bit of history related to Postgres, like when was it invented, who invented it, how was the progress of it, and how is it being now used. So it all started when the person named Michael Stonebreaker, he started a project known as Ingress. And this was in the year 1986 at University of California in Berkeley. Michael Stonebraker, along with few of its teammates, he started this project Ingress to develop a database. So it was basically a database related project. Eventually, he kept working on it, and in 1986 itself, the project was renamed as Postgres. Till now, when the project was renamed to Postgres, the features of a database management system on its own, like all the features of a database management system, was incorporated into this project when it was named Postgres. Now, going ahead in 1996, it was renamed as PostgreSQL. So the same person, he kept working on it along with the support of other people. And in 1996, after 10 years, a complete PostgreSQL database management system was developed. The name, as I said earlier also, that SQL is added at the end to display this, that SQL support is there in this DBMS. Post that, there were so many releases, but earlier from 1996 to 2000, the releases were very less. There were less enhancements being done, or even if the enhancements was done, that was minor enhancements which were done. In 2000, the first major release was done as the version 7.0, Postgres 7.0. The latest version which is there now was released on 14 September 2023, which is PostgreSQL 16. So in our hands-on session now, we'll be using PostgreSQL version 16 itself. So as I said, from 2000, the major release was done, the major enhancement was done. For example, I will tell you that in 2000, when the version 7.0 was released, the concept of foreign keys was added. Similarly, after that, then another release was in 2005, that is 8.0. Then in 2010, 9.0. Then it was in 2017 when the 10.0 version was released. Similarly, from 2017 going ahead, 2018, 19 till 23, every year some major enhancement is being done in PostgreSQL software, and the releases are there. So the latest one, as I said, is PostgreSQL version 16. So that was all about the historical improvements starting from 1986 till 2023. Now let's talk about the features of PostgreSQL. So as I said that there are other relational database management systems as well as object-oriented DBMS in the market. So why is this PostgreSQL widely used? So to understand that, you have to understand the different features which are there for Postgres. So the first one is it supports multiple programming language. It supports the programming languages like Java, Python, C, C++, Ruby, .NET, PHP. So all these programming languages are supported by Postgres, and that is one of the very strong feature of Postgres. It's open source, means it is freely available. You just have to go to the official website of Postgres and download the software to make use of it. It is extensible. So when I say extensible, it means that Postgres provides you a support for creation of your own data types, custom defined data types. It helps you also to create your own indexes, right? So there are such kind of features which make this software or which makes this DBMS extensible. It's highly reliable and secure. So when I talk about highly reliable and secure, it's important to mention here that it follows all the ACID properties of a database. So ACID here stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So these features are supported by Postgres. Apart from this, to make it a secure DBMS, it supports wide range of authentication methods and also SSL certification based connection encryption option is there, which makes this Postgres highly secure. It also supports MVCC. So MVCC is multi-version concurrency control. So for the systems where there are concurrent transactions going on, it becomes very important to make sure that there is no deadlock and there is no problems in concurrent execution of transaction. It gets executed smoothly, meaning it satisfies the ACID properties when there are concurrent transactions being executed. So Postgres provides a support for that as well. It provides a multi-version concurrency control model using which you can execute multiple concurrent transactions simultaneously without any problem. So these are the features of PostgreSQL which makes it different and widely acceptable nowadays for different types of applications. As I said that there are so many features for it to be a secure DBMS, for it to be a reliable DBMS, and hence it is widely used in the fields of healthcare and financial organizations application. Now we will be installing Postgres software on our machine, on our laptop, and then we'll go ahead with a hands-on session for the same. So before going to the actual installation steps, let me tell you in nutshell what basically I'm going to do. So first of all, you have to visit the official PostgreSQL download page. So the link is given here. You can directly click and go to that. Once we are arrived at the official website of Postgres, then you have to download the installer from there. Depending upon which operating system you are working on, Mac, Linux or Windows, you have to select that and then install. I'll show you as well how to do that, but in nutshell, let's understand first. Then you have to install the database. In the installation process, you have to select which all plugins you want of Postgres, as Postgres is a very heavy software. Different aspects are there for a Postgres. So which all tools, or you can say plugins of Postgres you want to install, that has to be selected in the process. Also in the process of installation, you have to select a password. This password you have to remember because later on it will be used every time when you log into either the PgAdmin GUI of Postgres or the SQL Shell. So let's go to the official website of PostgreSQL. I'll click here and directly go to the website, or if I'm pointing here, you can see that the website link is coming down, www.postgresql.org. You can go to the website as well, directly typing it in Google, and then go to the downloads option of it, and you will reach to the same place where I'll be reaching here by clicking. So you can see we have arrived here, www.postgresql.org, and in the downloads section, you can see PostgreSQL downloads options are there. So what are the packages and installers you have to select from here? And there are so many other additional information. So depending upon which OS you're working on, Solaris, BSD, Windows, Mac OS, Linux. So as mine is Windows, I'll be selecting this. Once you select that, you can see different versions of PostgreSQL, 16, 15, 14, 13. Depending upon which version you want to install or download, you can select. But as I'll be downloading the installer first, I would recommend you also to go ahead with these steps. So download the installer. So click there. So it will take you to this page. So you can see there are the options here for different versions, but let's install the latest version, right? This one. So this is for Windows. So 32-bit is not supported. It's only 64-bit. So the download has started. So once it downloads, we can install it. So we'll wait for some time. It will take some time for around 3 to 4 minutes to download, depending upon your net speed. So now it has downloaded the installer. Double click it to open. So now we'll go through the installation steps. Just click on next. So this is the installation directory. You can select this or you can change it. I'll leave it as it is. So HC program files, PostgreSQL folder is created. Then here is what I was talking about, the different tools or the different aspects of Postgres which you want to download or install. PostgreSQL server, PgAdmin, stack builder, command line tools. So I need the SQL server, PgAdmin and command line tools. So let's let all these be selected and go to next. So this is the data directory where it will be stored. Now here is the password which you have to select. So the password, you can select anything, but make sure you remember it because every time when you will be using Postgres, you need this password. So the port number by default is 5432. If you don't have any other softwares running on this port number, that is 5432 on your machine, no need to change it. But if you have other softwares installed and running on this port already, then you might have to change the port number. Otherwise, you can leave it as it is, 5432, and go to next. This also you can leave it default. Just click on next. So this is the settings which will be used for installation for all of these. So database, the port number will be this, the directory is this. So this is the detail which we have filled till now. Just click on next. Now you click on next, it will install. So it might take some time to install the software. So let it get installed. It might take some time for you to install as well. So it's now installing the database cluster, which will take a few minutes. So let's just wait. So yeah, the installation is complete now. Setup has finished installing Postgres on your computer. Okay. So you want to launch it or what? You can select accordingly and then finish it. Now this is a stack builder. So this process also, okay, to select the installation option. Select PostgreSQL 16 on port 5432. So you can see here the different aspects which need to be installed. We'll not go into details of it. If you want to select any of these, you can select depending upon your requirement. Then you can go to the database drivers. So depending upon which programming language you are working on, you have plans to work on, you can select. So I'll just select PgJDBC and NPGSQL. Okay, and let's this also be there if at all in future you need it. Database servers, so any one would do. So just this is already installed, right? It's showing here. You can have one more version or it was not needed. Registration, okay, we can have one here also. This is okay, GIS feature, the special extensions for web development. Let's have this. Okay, select all these. Depending upon your requirement, you can select or you can skip as well because the basic server and things have been already installed. Click on next. Now this will take some time to download and install. So whatever things we have selected, it will download all of those and then install as well. Okay, so all the softwares have been downloaded and it will now take few more steps to set up all the drivers or all the extra tools which we have downloaded just now. Just click on next. Let the installation directory be the same. So it will just install all those as the download was completed. Click on finish. Similarly, for all the tools which you have selected there from the stack builder to install, it will install all those. So once you finish all the installation for all the tools one by one, as I showed you right now for two of it, click on finish. Now let's check that the software has been installed successfully or not. So for that, just go on the start menu, type PgAdmin. So you can see here it shows PgAdmin 4, right? So go to the start menu and then you can go to the Postgres package which is installed here right now. Yeah, so PostgreSQL 16. In this you can see PgAdmin as well as SQL Shell. So we'll be working with these two. PgAdmin is a GUI version of it where you will be having a graphical interface where you have to do minimalistic coding, or you can say minimalistic commands you have to write. And SQL Shell is where it's like a command prompt where you have to write each and everything. I advise to work with SQL Shell initially because you will even remember the commands which you will be typing and you will learn quickly. This is my advice. But if you are thorough with the database commands and you are well versed with SQL queries, then you can go ahead and use PgAdmin as well. That is faster if you have to build an application. So here, once you open the SQL shell for PSQL, this will ask the server and localhost. Just click or press enter. Database, press enter. Port 5432, press enter. Username also you can press enter. Password you have to enter. So you remember initially I have told you the password. So you have to enter that password which you have entered or created while the setup, while the installation of PostgreSQL. So once you enter that, so this will be the display message. So it means that the password was correct. Now to check that the correct version or has been installed, or any version has been successfully installed, you can type select version brackets semicolon. Okay. So here S should be capital, V should be capital, and select version round brackets semicolon, and this will display. So we have installed and downloaded PostgreSQL 16 version, like 16.0. So this is successfully installed. Now this was the process of installation of PostgreSQL on Windows machine. You can follow the same steps, or I can say almost the same steps for Mac and Linux as well. Now let us talk about the hands-on part of PostgreSQL. So in this as I already said to you, that I'll be working on SQL Shell as well as PgAdmin. SQL Shell is the command prompt or command line interface where you have to enter or type each and every command or SQL query to make it execute. And secondly is PgAdmin, which is a graphical interface, which I'll show you how it looks like. Just by some clicks, you will be able to create a table or a database and run your queries. So one by one, first I'll demonstrate SQL Shell. The same process we'll do it on PgAdmin. I'll be demonstrating in this session all the basic commands. So few commands, if you are aware of MySQL or SQL queries, you might be knowing. That is basic commands like select, drop, create, insert and update. But certain commands which are specific to Postgres will also be discussed, and that is offset, fetch, like. The other clauses, SQL clauses I could say, like where, order by, is null, also exist in other relational database management system, but offset, fetch and like are somewhat which is related to Postgres. So we'll be discussing all these in this session. So here is the command line interface. So as I already told you how to check that the correct version or the Postgres has been successfully installed. Now let's see which all databases already exist. So when we install any software or DBMS, some predefined or pre-installed databases are there. So let's check if at all is there or not. So /l. So it will list down all the databases. So you can see it's there, right? Postgres template 0. So these are the databases which are there. So we'll be creating our own database and trying to work with it. Okay. So to create one database, what you have to do is, okay, we'll write C as capital. Create database. Maybe Postgres _ test. So you can see the database is successfully created. The name of the database is Postgres _ test. Okay. To make use of this database, what you have to do, /s, name of the database, Postgres test. No semicolon here. So you can see here it says connection to server at localhost. Okay, this failed. It says it does not exist. Okay, so we'll try again. Postgres test. So yeah, the slash was the backward slash actually before C, and then the name of the database. So now you are into this database. So in whatever you will create here, the table, the views or whatever will be inside this database. So you can work now. So I'll be creating a table. Now let's create a table by the name of employee. Okay. So the syntax for that is create table, table name, employee. All the columns which you want in this table can be listed now in the bracket. So open bracket. The first column we want is employee ID, which has to be an integer, comma, employee name, which can be of type varchar. Let's specify the limit to it, or number of characters I could say. Employee ID, employee name. Now, employee address, which also will be of type varchar 40. Let's have a column as salary, which will be of real data type. Close the bracket and semicolon at the end. So we have created the table. Make sure that all the commands, either you use it in capital letters or small letters. So you can see the difference here, right? That I used capital letter for create, it gave me an error. So the small letter has to be there for the commands. So going forward, we'll be using the small letters for all the commands related to Postgres. So the table has been created. Now, before inserting the values into it, let me show you how we can do the same steps in PgAdmin. So go to the start. Okay, you can type PgAdmin, click on it. So you can see this is the interface for PgAdmin 4. Okay, these file, object, tools and help, these are the menus option available. And then there are, this is the dashboard, the different properties. So these all will be available only if you start working. So here is the option for quick links like add new server or configure the PgAdmin. PgAdmin website, documentation, you can go to the documentation from here itself and read. We'll just go ahead and see, as soon as I clicked on the server here, it prompted to enter the password. So I have to enter the same password. Click on OK. So this is the GUI basically. We have entered into the server connection is established. And now we can see here the databases. So we have just now created this database, right? Postgres_test. So this database is here. You can create the database also from here on this GUI. But I'll show you how to create tables. So we have created a table, right, in the database Postgres. So if you go in this database, and you have to make sure you have to refresh the database. So if you right click here, there's an option for refresh. So once you refresh it, you'll be able to see all the tables or whatever activities you have done using using SQL Shell will be reflected over here. So if you go to schemas option, and then under tables, you can see there's an employee table which we have created just now, right? If you have to create more table, you can right click on this and then click on create table. So I want to create it inside this database itself. Okay, so I'll go here, create the table. So to click on this, create table. The name of the table has to be specified. So I am giving a name as maybe company, or okay, fine, let it this be the company table. Schema will be public. Now from here you can select, this is the general properties which we set, right? And then there are columns, there are advanced property constraints if you want any to be set. So I'll go and select columns, and you can type the name here and data type, length, scale, everything. So let's insert. So the first column will be company name. The data type I want is your varchar. Okay, you can specify the length. You want it to be null, not null, primary key. I am leaving it to be default, whatever it is, not null, and I'm not setting it as a primary key also. Next, the another field I'm going to give here is registration, or let it be short form, registration ID. This I'm going to give it as integer. Okay, I'll make this as a primary key and this as a not null. Okay, the another column would be company address. Let this also be varchar. Specify the length to be 30. And that's it, 3 columns I want in this table. So let's save it. So you can see here, this is the company table, right? The columns, you can see company name, registration ID, company address, right? So this is how we create a table. This was so easy in PgAdmin, GUI interface. So we saw how to create tables. Now let us go ahead and see other commands which you can execute. So once creation of table is done, let's see how we can delete a table or drop a table. So to drop a table, meaning the complete deletion of the table along with its columns and everything, can be done in SQL using the command drop. So now we have seen how to create a table using SQL Shell as well as PgAdmin. Now we'll go ahead and work with those tables created. So first I'll demonstrate you how to drop a table, that is delete a table along with its columns and everything. Then going ahead, we'll talk about deleting a particular row. Then we'll also talk about how to update the values in a table. So let's see all these three using the PgAdmin itself. So here, to create or write a query, you need to create or start a query tool. So right click on the database. You can select query tool. So once this window appears, you can type your commands. So I'm going to drop a table and show you how we can delete a complete table. So let's see all of these three commands one by one. So I'll use drop table, the name of the table. So we have created employee table. Let's delete that and check. So drop table name, employee. So it says drop table. So we have to just refresh it once to see if it has been deleted. So you can see there is only one table now, that is company, right? Now we should insert the values now into this table to understand delete and update commands. To insert values, we have to just first create the table again. So I'll go to the SQL shell as we have created it here. So the commands is already there. So create table employee, enter. So it has created the table. Okay, so create table is written, that means it has created the table. Now we'll go back to the PgAdmin and then just do refresh over here. You can see the employee table will be there. Okay, with the columns as employee ID, employee name, employee address and salary. Now let's insert the values into it. So for that, the same SQL query command, that is insert into table name, employee, and then the values which was there. So we have, you go to this and see you have employee ID, employee name, address and salary. Make sure the data type specified, the data should be accordingly to the data type specified. So employee, the first one is employee ID. So I'll give as maybe, let's start from 2. And then there is employee name. So I'll write just my name itself. So this has to be a string, right? So you have to enclose it into a bracket, into commas, sorry. Then there is address. So let's write Bangalore. And then there's salary. The salary has to be a real value, right? So you just enter something, maybe 80,000, or you can just leave it. It will convert it also at the back end. Now execute this. Okay. So the problem here was that we have not specified the columns in which we are entering the value. So along with the table name, you have to specify the columns as well. EMP ID, then EMP name, then EMP address, and then salary. Okay, into values, and this is the value. Now let's execute this. So this has inserted these values. Now we'll just copy paste and okay, so what we did here is to insert the values into a table, the SQL query has to be used, that is insert into, then the name of the table, all the columns which are there in the table has to be specified, close the bracket, values, and then the values which you want to insert into the row. So this is one row inserted. Now similarly, let's insert at least 3 rows so that we can work on few of the commands later on. So I'll just copy paste it and change the values here. Okay, and the name, let's change it to Priya, and let this be as Pooja. The address, let's change it to something else, that is Delhi, and here I'll change it as Chennai. Let the salaries also get changed, maybe something like this. Okay, let's execute all these 3. So this was already done, so let's execute these 2. So yeah, the query has been successfully executed. Now let's see that what are the values in the table. So select star from employee, that is table name. So we'll execute this query. So you can see these values are entered 2, 3 and 4, employee ID, name, address and salary. Now to delete any one of the row, what you have to do, what is the command that has to be used? So delete from the table name where employee ID is. You can delete any one, maybe let's delete 3 where the employee ID is 3. So delete from employee where employee ID is 3. So let's execute this. So yeah, the query is executed. Now I'll again execute select star from employees to check that has it been successfully deleted. So you can see yes, only 2 and 4 is present, 3 is no more there. So this is how we work on delete. Next is your update. So if we have to update any values which we have already inserted for any of the row, for any of the data, then we have to use the command update table name where employee ID is equal to maybe 2. What you have to update has to be specified, right? Suppose I want to change maybe the the salary. Okay, so for employee ID 2, I want to change the salary as set salary to be, so earlier it was 80,000, now let's change it to maybe 85,000. Right, now let's execute this. Okay, so there is an error. Okay, so the error says that this has to be before. So just here, what you have to set should be specified before. So update employee, set salary as this, where employee ID is 2. Let's now execute it and check. So yeah, it gets executed. Now I'll run this query, select start from employees to check. So you can see yes, the value of salary is updated to 85,000. Right, so this is how we work with update command. So we saw delete, update, insert, select command and also drop table. Okay, so as we saw all the basic commands, right, that is insert, select, delete, update, drop. Now let's see some of the clauses in Postgres. So clauses, when I say, I'm talking about where clause, group by clause, then there is fetch, limit, all these clauses we'll be talking about. So starting from where clause. So using where clause, we provide condition on the activities or the selection which we want to do. For example, select star from employee where this should be star. So here I want to select all those employee details whose salary is greater than 60,000. Okay, so I'll write where salary greater than 60,000. Now let's execute this. Okay, there was an error. So the spelling mistake in employee. So there is only one employee, as there were only twos because we have deleted one. Now let me first insert few more values and then we can go ahead and execute other clauses. Okay, so I'll be inserting the values here 5, 6, 7. Let's change the name to Priya. Go ahead. Raj. The places will change it to Delhi. Let this be Chennai only. Bangalore. Salaries we can change it to some value. Okay, let me now execute this 3. So yeah, it's executed. Let's see now how many values are there in this. So you can see 6 rows are there in this table now. Now if I execute this, select star from employees, you'll have 2 values here. Similarly, we can have other conditions also. Okay, I'll just copy paste this. Okay, select star from employees. Some other condition can also be there where EMP address is equal to Chennai. Okay, now let's execute this. So you can see 3 people were there whose employee address was Chennai, so that is displayed. So where you can now understand it is for conditional selection. So wherever you want to specify the condition. So here I am using selection. So condition is for selection. If you are doing some other activity and then you are specifying the condition, that where clause condition will be for that particular activity. For example, if you are joining 2 tables. So if you are specifying a condition, so that condition will be for joining the 2 tables. So that's what where is all about. Now we'll see the order by clause. So for that, this is the query which I have written. Select star from employee, order by the salary in the descending order it should be arranged. So if I execute this, so you can see the output here. So salary is arranged in the descending order 85,067 and then so on. The minimal is 40,000. So this is your order by clause. Now next we have to see is limit. So on this itself, on the same query, let's use limit it to 3. So I just want the 3 rows, the top 3 rows to be displayed. So that is how or for what we use limit. So you can see the top 3 rows has been displayed. So this is your limit clause. Now let's talk about the offset. So for offset meaning it will leave that many rows from top and then it is going to display the result. So if I write offset 3 or you can change this value offset 2, so it is going to leave the top 2 rows and then display the result. So you can see the top 2 rows of 85,000 and 67,000 is left and then post that whatever was the output is displayed here. If I write here top 3 should be left and then execute. So you can see only the 55,000 is also no more now. So apart from the top 3 rows, whatever is the output has been displayed here. So that's why we use offset. So these 3 commands or these 3 clauses we studied. So we talked about the basic commands select, drop, create, insert, update. We talked about the clauses where order by is null is still to be discussed. Offset, fetch and like has to be discussed. So let's go again to the PgAdmin. Okay, so let's see now first is null clause. So for that, I'll write a query, select star from employee where salary is null. So the output for this should be nothing, because we have value for salary in all the rows. If any of the rows is left blank, as for salary we have not specified that it cannot be null, so it can be left blank, that is null. So if at all that was the case, then there would have been a row displayed. But as we have salary value for all the rows which we have inserted, that's the reason the output is blank, nothing. Next is your fetch clause. So for that, I'll just use this query. Order by salary, descending order. Okay, suppose that we can write fetch okay, so this should be first 3 rows only. Okay, so just execute this. So you can see here, it fetches the first 3 rows only after ordering the salary in descending order from the employee table, and it is selecting everything, so displaying each and every column. You can write here you want the first 4 rows. So fetch is basically for fetching that number of rows from the complete output which could have been, or from the complete table. So this is fetch clause is null. Next is like. So for like, we can use select star from employee where. So like is used for pattern matching, I could say. So if you want to select all those employee details whose name maybe starts with P, okay, so you can use where employee name like, then in comma you can write percent, or starts with P, so P and then percent, right? Let's execute this. The employee table should be double E. So you can see all those details of employees where the employee name was starting with the letter P is displayed. So like is something for used for pattern matching. So starting with P, if you want some ending with P, or you want some characters in between, that should be there. So for that percent, then those characters percent. So beginning and ending can be anything, in between those characters should be there. Or you want that something should be in the beginning but it should end with P, or it should end with A. You can write accordingly percent and then A inside the comma. So this is for what we use like clause or like operator, you could say. So this was all about the basic commands in Postgres. Now let us talk about some advanced concepts in Postgres, that is aggregate functions and other different functions which we can use or work on different rows of a table. So let's go to the PgAdmin interface. So here, to work for aggregate functions, so what are aggregate functions? So there are some inbuilt support for functions which can be worked on numerical data. For example, count, that will count the number of rows. Second is minimum. You can find the minimum of the certain range of values. You can find maximum. You can do the sum or find out the average of the values. So all these are aggregate functions in Postgres. So let's see few of the examples. Select minimum of salary. Okay, you can use as keyword or as command to display certain value or certain output as some column or as some heading name. Okay, so I want minimum salary to be displayed and the name of that output or the column should be minimum salary. okay, from employee table. So minimum salary as minimum salary from employee. Let's execute this. So you can see the minimum salary is displayed. The heading for this or the column name is minimum salary, right? Similarly, you can have max salary also. Max salary, and this I'll change it to maximum salary. Let's execute and check. So the maximum salary value is displayed. You can have the average of it or the sum of it, anything is fine. So I'll write average, and then this name can be final salary. Okay, from employee. Let's execute this. So this is some average value to some double precision is used. Okay, so 57833. This is the average of all the salaries combining all the rows. So these were the some of the aggregate functions. Now talking about other functions which are also there, which you can work on. For example, you can find out the mod of a given number. You can find out the square root of a given number. So these kind of functions support is also there in Postgres. For example, select mod of some number, maybe 60 to the base 2. Okay. Okay, it gives 4. Let's change this value to 10. Might give us the answer. Now let's change this value to maybe 64 as we are getting the mod answer for 0 for all. So now you get 4 as an answer. So you can find out the mod of a given number to any base. Okay. You can also find out the square root. So SQRT, square root of 64. That is 8. So these kind of other functions are also there in Postgres. So all the SQL functions basically that support is there in Postgres as well. So you can find out the mod, square root. The other functions could be you can find out the least, greatest, ceiling function is there, floor function is there. So all of these functions, similarly like how I executed mod and SQRT, square root, you can implement all those functions as well and get the output. So this was all about the different commands, the basic commands we discussed like select, drop, create, insert and update. Then we discussed where, order by, is null, offset, fetch and like operator. Then we discussed some aggregate functions which you can work on a given table. Then different functions support is also there in Postgres, which we saw with the help of example. So now let's summarize what we discussed in this session. So we discussed first of all what is database. So database is a structured collection of data. We store data in database to retrieve, update, maintain the data. Then we discussed about PostgreSQL or Postgres. So Postgres is an open source, relational as well as object-oriented database management system. We talked about the different features of PostgreSQL. That is, it supports multiple programming languages. It has support for MVCC, that is multi-version concurrency control. It has support to implement integrity as well as security details. We also discussed the history related to Postgres, that is launched or started in 1986. Going forward in 1996, it was finally given or launched with the name of PostgreSQL. Post that, there has been multiple versions. We also discussed that in detail. Then we went ahead and installed the PostgreSQL. Step-by-step guide was there for the installation of PostgreSQL. And then finally, we worked on the SQL Shell and PgAdmin interface. Majorly, we work with PgAdmin. Same commands and same queries can be executed on SQL Shell as well. Although initially how to create a table, how to work with a database or how to create a database as well, all these steps were shown in using SQL Shell, and then we moved ahead with PgAdmin. So that's all we discussed in this session.